Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Al, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, good. Got our little puppy in my lap because she decided that the little seat wasn't good enough for her.
I know. Right as we started to record, she was getting antsy.
Yeah. So, hey, well, welcome over here. And if you watch us on YouTube, you'll see her just licking my fingers, and she'll probably lick my hands the whole time.
She can do no wrong in my eyes.
Yeah, she's your favorite, as we've been over.
So how are ya?
Good. Hey, if you're listening to this and you like what we do, I mean, I guess wait till the end and find out, but you can become a Patreon or an Apple subscriber and get yourself another new episode every week or once every couple weeks. And there's a couple different options. Apple subscribers, new one every single week. Patreon, you have one options, whether it's once a week or every,
There's 3 tiers on Patreon. I always find it funny when you're like, you can be a Patreon. It's a patron.
Yeah, that's true. I say things incorrectly, and luckily I'm not speaking the whole time. We've had people ask us why I am not providing any stories anymore. Mm-hmm. I should probably do that.
Yeah, you should. At least throw one in every couple months.
Because it's not like you have more time than I do. You have a full-time job just like I do.
Yeah.
You actually have to commute to work. I don't have to.
Yeah. I do the laundry.
Yeah. Not that it's like expected. I want everybody to know that. It's not like you're expected to do
Well, I
laundry.
enjoy it.
Yeah, you love it.
I truly do enjoy doing the research.
No. Oh, I thought you said laundry.
Oh, the laundry? Hell no. I'd like to torch that crap.
I was like, I've heard otherwise my whole life.
No, I mean, I don't mind it. I put the Real Housewives on it as I fold, so I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
But no, I do not enjoy doing laundry. It never freaking ends.
Right. Yeah, that's a fact for sure.
So we're recording this a couple of days early because we're going to go away for our anniversary.
And your birthday.
And my birthday.
So if you're listening to this, it was Allison's birthday on Friday. So,
Friday, May 24th.
Yeah, and so go ahead and send her a quick little message or post something on our Instagram page.
Well, you don't have to.
I mean, it'd be nice.
It's sweet and it's heartwarming to me, but if you don't feel obligated.
The only reason you shouldn't is if you don't have Instagram. If you do, Crime and Coffee 2 is our handle. So go check it out.
We actually got married on the Friday of Memorial Day, so it's falling exactly how it did when we got married.
Yeah, and we'll probably tell that story for the Ask Us Anything that's coming up because it looks like a couple people asked how we met and stuff like that. I don't know if you're interested in that at all, but we did meet in high school at a bagel shop. So
we did.
I'll tell you all about that.
Little did I know when I met this guy, he'd be with me for eternity.
Well, so far, I mean, who knows? Eternity.
Marital bliss, 22 years.
Something like that. I don't know about that.
I wake up every morning with a smile on my face as I gaze over at you.
Same. Absolutely same. So we're going away for a little bit, going to a local hotel in Orlando. So that should be fun.
Yeah. Taking the kids.
What's nice about living in Florida, you can go to a bunch of different places. And like we're not even going to any of the parks because we don't have $5,000 to spend at parks.
And it's hotter than a witch's boobie.
Or anything on a witch in the summer heat of Florida. And you can imagine how hot that is.
Don't put me in a theme park in the summertime because it's not going to be pleasant to be around me.
And honestly, folks, it's not quite pleasant a lot of times.
To be around me in general.
No, I mean in theme parks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it's super busy, what's the point of 2-hour wait for Small World? I mean, come on.
Right. We've seen it. We know the song. Everybody knows the song.
It's cute, but I'm not going to wait 2 hours for anything.
Right. I got you. So what else is going on this week?
Not too much else.
I'm thinking about getting myself an under the desk treadmill because a lot of times I think about, I need more steps in my life. I looked down the other day. I had like 3,500 steps on the day. It's like, wow, that is not a lot.
No.
We all need to be moving all the time. I work out, lift weights, but that's just not enough.
They do say that, 10,000 steps should be your ultimate goal for the day. That's usually associated with better health.
Absolutely.
Because you're moving more, generally speaking.
I'm even going to lower the bar to 7,000.
7,000 is fine. The whole idea is it's hard when you're working, especially when you're at a desk. My day is kind of split. I spend several hours seeing patients, maybe 1 or 2. And then the rest of my time, I'm sitting at a desk. So I have to actually force myself to go take a quick walk, which I do get most days. Some days I'm just too busy, but I force myself to do it because I know it's good for me, both mentally and physically. They say it does help you reset, focus better when you come back. It's just forcing yourself to do it.
Right.
Because when you're in the thick of it and you're in a swing, you don't want to stop.
Well, I'm so busy with work now. I had a new job like 6 months ago. Now I'm getting into everything. And like, there's always something to do, especially in sales. You can always call another person or, just kind of touch base with one of the opportunities that are out there or whatever it might be. So it's like, I'll do this first and then I'll go for a walk. And it's like, no, I never do.
But you have to prioritize your health.
Yeah. So I'll get an under the desk treadmill and I'll start calling. Yeah.
Win-win, because then you can multitask, especially if you have a webinar or something like that. I don't think I could walk and type.
No, I won't be typing. I'll probably be talking on the phone.
Yeah,
like
that I would do.
Yeah. So, and even like 1 mile an hour is better than 0.
Totally.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like, just go. There's like walking pads that they have. It's not like a major, treadmill.
And it's very low profile. You can kind of like fold it up and put it away, I think.
And especially for a fat boy like me, I need to make sure that there's, it can hold 250 pounds.
Stop it. You weigh 239. I saw it on the scale the other day.
I'm a little scared every time I go to do the scale that you're like looking at it. And I see your beady little eyes like looking and seeing like, okay, how much does he weigh?
It's just out of curiosity.
I know. I get it.
P.S. We share our weight app. I could look at your weight anytime I want to.
Really?
Yeah, we do.
Oh,
and I don't.
See, I don't look at yours, and I didn't know that.
Well,
so now I'm worried even more. So I thought I would speak my truth here with our friends on the podcast, and it scares me when you're in the if you think that I'm about to step on the scale and then I don't, it's because you're in the room.
What is your fear?
I don't know.
I know how much you weigh.
Well, if I gain a pound, I wonder if you'll be like, oh man, he's not doing good anymore.
No, I don't. I legitimately do not.
Then
I have my own issues to worry about, Mike.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. But then why
I have a lot of issues.
Yeah. And you also look like a little snack today. That's what the kids say.
A snack?
Yeah, they said that means you look good.
Oh, thank you.
I like your whole body suit get-ups.
It's that free people body jumpsuit thing. It's so comfortable.
We're not paid by them yet. So,
no, certainly not. But it is comfortable. And they do have knockoffs. I got this one on sale on Dick's Sporting Good, but they are expensive. I will tell you that.
Yeah. Well, a couple bodysuits for a cutie pie, definitely worth it.
Yeah, jumpsuits, I think. I don't think that's not a bodysuit.
Hey, listen, I don't know.
Who the hell knows?
I just like to shimmy it off of you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's reel it back in.
I feel like Conan O'Brien.
Are you ready to do this?
I am.
All right. So I came upon this case because I covered the Jacob Wetterling case recently. I kind of wondered in my head, where did stranger danger originate? Where did it come from? And it sounds like this case was the catalyst for it. So this is the disappearance of Etan Patz. So it was May 25th, 1979. I was born one day before on May 24th, 1979.
Timely.
And 6-year-old Etan Patz headed out of his New York City home to the bus stop only 2 blocks away. It was Etan's first walk to the bus stop alone, and tragically, it ended up being the last walk of his life.
Oh my God, that sucks. You're trying to, let your kid have some freedom, and I'm sure he's very confident, and he's like, all right, I'm going to make it to school. Oh, that's so sad.
Horrific. So Etan's story changed things, and it caused parents to begin clutching their kids by the hand, unwilling to allow them to walk ahead on their own. There's just something very relatable if you have a child around that age and you hear this story that they walked to the bus stop the first time 2 blocks away and disappeared. It resonates, and it scared the crap out of so many people.
Resonates.
What did I say? Resignates?
That's okay.
Ignore me, people. I apologize. So, like I said, it was a catalyst for the missing child panic and the stranger danger scare that erupted in the late 1970s and early 1980s. I read a lot of articles about this, and people were saying, like, you were scared senseless around these times.
Of course.
And this was all in response to his disappearance, as well as the 1981 murder of Adam Walsh. And we can all remember these cases. I had never heard of Etan's case, but everybody knows Adam Walsh's story. And Ronald Reagan formed a task force on missing and exploited children. During this time, media stories often exaggerated the risk of stranger danger by highlighting rare and isolated incidents, despite the fact that the vast majority of physical and sexual abuse of children is perpetrated by their own family or adults that they are familiar with, rather than strangers in vans that are handing out candy and offering puppies to, come in the van and see the puppies.
Right, but it still happens.
It happens. And we talked about that on our Wednesday bonus episode, that despite the fact that it is such a small percentage, I myself am fearful of strangers. I tell my kids all about it. So I understand where it's coming from. The Reagan administration wanted to increase criminal penalties on those who harm children, and this is truly where mass incarceration began to drastically rise. It started in Nixon's administration, but drastically rose in Reagan's. So statistics indicate that when Reagan began his presidency in 1980, the total prison population was 329,000, and when he left office 8 years later, the number had nearly doubled to 627,000. And the United States incarcerates more people than any other nation in the world. It is the leader in prison population since 2002. And as of the end of 2023, 1.8 million Americans are incarcerated, and China is behind the US. So the idea was for children to be safe in their home with their parents and away from the risk of strangers. So people would sit around watching nightly news broadcasts, they would read print media, and people were legitimately terrified.
Yeah, we're very, very emotional beings, human beings. I mean, that's why everything that you're trying to watch, whether it's news or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, is trying to elicit some kind of an emotional response from you so that you can like feel angry or happy or something. So you feel something so you
connect
come
with
back.
it.
Yeah. And they want you to come back and be addicted.
Yes. So terrified parents, concerned politicians, law enforcement and officials claimed, and this was one of the statistics I read, that in the news they were saying that up to 50,000 children fell victim to stranger kidnapping annually in the U.S.
Whoa.
This number was grossly inflated. The actual number of stranger kidnappings was and remains about 100 annually.
So how in the HE double hockey sticks did they go from 50,000 to 100? Like how'd they miscalculate that?
I don't think that they miscalculated. I think they wanted to shock people, like you just said.
Yeah, they wanted to get some kind of a reaction.
So Americans believed that their children were facing grave danger, a growing threat. Many parents go with the classic teaching of stranger danger to protect their children. I myself do. I get it.
Yeah, we talk to our kids and say, hey, nobody is going to pick you up from school unless you know them already. We're not going to send somebody that you have no idea who they are.
Right.
It's going to be one of our closest friends or it's somebody you know very, very well. If it's somebody you've never seen, then we are totally happy with you not running the other way, never talking to them again.
So the vast majority of abductions, like I said, involve a relative or someone that is known to the child. Approximately 840,000 children are reported missing each year, but less than 1% have been abducted by a stranger. So it is a minute statistic, but it's terrifying nonetheless. So because of what happened to Etan Patz, Reagan made May 25th National Missing Children's Day in honor of the little boy. 3 years after Etan's disappearance in 1984, photos of missing children began to appear on the side of milk cartons. And this was when the National Child Safety Council began its Missing Children Milk Carton program, and Etan's photo was among the first to appear on the milk carton.
What a brilliant strategy, because it's on at that time it was on the breakfast table every single American family, because you're having your milk, whether you're having pancakes or sausage or cereal, you're having your milk too, because there was a big push for milk.
Right. So it's sitting there and you're eating and you're reading.
Yeah.
So yes. So the morning that Etan headed out for school on May 25th, 1979, it was a hectic one in the Patz household. It was the last day of school before the Memorial Day weekend. Etan's mom, Julie, was running a daycare out of their Soho loft, and she was tending to two 2-year-olds at that moment. It was her younger son and another child who had stayed the night. Etan's older sister was moving very slowly that morning. She didn't want to get out of bed. Etan, on the other hand, bounded out of bed. He was so excited to be getting more independence that morning, and he approached his mom and asked if she would allow him to walk to school alone, and he told her, "It's fine, I can do it," as he pleaded with her to allow him. And finally, with some reluctance, Julie agreed. Etan packed his own backpack. He had gotten this backpack from a friend's mother. It was decorated with little elephants. You could just picture it. I mean, this little boy is precious. He put his favorite toy cars inside his bag. He placed his favorite Eastern Airlines hat on his head. Etan carried $1 with him that morning so that he could stop at a store. He was going to grab himself a soda on his way to the bus stop. So in addition to his future flight captain pilot hat, Etan wore a blue corduroy jacket, blue jeans, and blue sneakers with fluorescent stripes. As Etan walked away that morning, it was the last time Julie would ever see her son.
Man, these stories are the absolute worst. Like, this is just going to suck so bad because, as anything about kids, they have their whole life ahead of them. And Etan was clearly a kid who was pushy and wanted to get what he wanted. And he was very confident in himself and wanted to wear his hat. And, you just picture this little kid, like, ready to take on the entire world. And I'd imagine he'd, like, talk to his teachers. And his teachers probably loved him. And, he's well loved by everybody.
He probably couldn't wait to get to school that morning and announce to everybody who would listen that he walked to the bus stop himself. And that's really what hurts so bad, is that innocence was stripped away. Julie and Stanley Patz didn't realize that their son was missing until later that day when he didn't return from his school, which was the Independence Plaza School.
Oh my God. Just think of all that time they're thinking, man, we could have been looking for him. And that's like no technology at the time to like report it back.
So what happened was he didn't come home and they began to call around. And this is when they realized that Etan had never made it to his first grade class that day. He had never made it to the bus stop because they spoke with kids that were at the bus stop that day. Etan never arrived. So they're at home tending to their days, thinking their son is safe at school. He never arrived.
He's in the hands of some stranger.
Yes. So, of course, they reported him missing at that point. So when the realization that her son was missing hit her, Julie indicated that she fell into shock. She said, "My legs started giving out." Before long, the family's home was transformed into a command center where police, investigators, volunteers, and journalists all gathered. Etan's image was soon splashed across the front pages of newspapers. It was shown on TV newscasts. Missing posters were plastered all around the city. Stan was a professional photographer, so he had recently taken many pictures of his son, and these pictures served as the face of this whole, missing search. And obviously this adorable little 6-year-old just captured the public's heart as well as Etan's spirit. And you can really see, like, he's everything that a 6-year-old little boy is. I mean, honestly, it gives me chills to even think about his little face. So Julie described Etan as a boy who bubbled over with life, and he always saw the positive side while other people tended to see the negative. He was just an incredible little person. Stan described Etan as a loving and trusting child who could have easily been convinced to come with an adult because he saw the world from innocent eyes.
Sure.
He didn't see risk all around him, so he would have willingly gone with somebody. So the detectives involved in the case were immediately immersed, and they took Etan's disappearance very personally since they themselves had children like pretty much the exact age as Etan was. So they put themselves in their Julie and Stan's shoes, and it hit them hard. Detective Bill Butler, who is a father of 6, said that he felt as if he was searching for his own son. And sadly, Bill went on to take his own life in 1986. There was speculation that his frustration with the case may have been a contributing factor. Amongst their grief, Julie and Stan were forced to carry on as they were protecting Etan's older sister and younger brother.
Well, I'm sure you expect the entire world to like stop,
Right.
And it's like, our son is gone. Like, everybody needs to look for him, but it's like your job. I mean, they care, but it's like they still are trying to turn their profits and whatever, It's like, and I'm supposed to like take care of my kid, and like while one of my children are gone, like the whole world is, you still have responsibilities while your little baby's gone.
So they had to put on a brave face for their 2 children that they still had at home and try to live normal lives, which felt utterly impossible since Etan's belongings remained throughout their home. They had moment-to-moment reminders of his missing presence, because if they were to put away Etan's things, they were basically telling themselves and signifying to themselves that Etan was truly gone. And this was something they couldn't admit to themselves or their 2 other children. So they kept his belongings out, and I'm sure it was just a painful reminder every second of every day that their son was not there, but they felt that if they remained patient, they would eventually get their son back. So neighbors in Lower Manhattan recall police going door to door with officers showing Etan's picture with his bowl cut and toothy grin. Officers walking through apartments room by room, hoping that someone had seen or heard something in regards to Etan's disappearance, because we know this happened on a bustling, busy morning in daylight. So they worked all that day and night, and people remember the sound of loudspeakers and bloodhounds walking through the streets of the city as they bellowed, "Has anyone seen this little boy? He is 3 feet 4 inches tall. He was carrying a cloth bag with imprints of elephants." Schools began teaching children about stranger danger. Stan Patz, Etan's father, indicated that both he and his wife were holding out hope that Etan was still alive and being cared for by somebody that maybe just wanted an adorable boy like their son.
Right.
They were hoping that maybe one day this person would have a fit of consciousness and return their son back to them safely.
Yeah, that's a positive way to look at it.
Despite all the efforts to find Etan, no answers came. There were many theories as to what could have happened to Etan, and many suspects emerged. This included Jose Ramos, whom authorities pursued for years in regards to this case. He was a convicted child molester and was linked to Etan by a relationship with a woman who had been hired at one point to walk Etan home from school. So there was a connection there. In 1998, this is 19 years after Etan's disappearance, a new detective was leading the missing persons squad, and Phil Mahoney was drawn to the case after he read a poem titled "The Missing Boy." This was by Sharon Olds, and it was written in 1986 for Etan Patz. It was about a mother and a son looking at Etan's missing poster. And this, really inspired him to want to find answers in this case. So he began to sort through nearly 2 decades worth of work, as well as some bizarre tips that had come in throughout the years. And one tip involved a cult in Westchester that indicated that Etan was killed by the cult and dumped. Mahoney was also seeing this name, Jose Ramos, over and over, and this was the man that police had been very interested in. So when Ramos was interviewed in 1982 after he was arrested on suspicion of trying to lure 2 boys into a drain pipe, which sometimes served as his home, so Ramos was, of course, being talked to, and he was found to have disturbing photos of kids that did resemble Etan. And when he was questioned about the photos, he was asked if he had ever heard of a boy named Etan Patz. He said that he did because, Etan was in the papers in 1979. And he also mentioned that the woman that he used to date, this is Susan Harrington, would walk Etan to school during a bus strike shortly before his disappearance.
Really? Mm-hmm. So there's a direct connection.
A direct connection, yes. So he said he knew where the boy lived because it was posted in the papers, but investigators who at this point in time are suspecting that this guy is a pedophile because he's trying to lure these boys into the drainage pipe. He has pictures of children. They thought that he could potentially have been responsible for Etan's disappearance.
Yeah, this guy's a net negative being alive in society.
100%. So Ramos had spoken with a special agent with the FBI and indicated that on the day that Etan disappeared, he had gone to Washington Square Park and saw a little boy playing handball against the wall. Etan was known to frequently play in Washington Square Park. Ramos said that several times he was in that very park on May 25th, 1979, when a young 7-ish blonde kid came up to him and began talking to him. He took the boy, which he called Jimmy, back to his apartment where he told the special agent, the old Ramos did the little, The old Ramos did to the little boy what the old Ramos did to little boys. So she learned that he would refer to himself as the old Ramos or the bad Ramos when discussing his wrongdoings. He went on to say that he had taken the boy to a subway station, bought him a token, put him on a train that was headed to Washington Heights, where the little boy said that his aunt lived. He claimed that he was 90% sure that Etan was the boy that he encountered that day. So he's saying he did sexually assault this boy, but he put him on a subway. He was alive and well, and that was the last time he saw him. So investigators learned that Ramos had sexually molested children all around the country. This is coming out so many years later when the case is being looked at again. He traveled around the U.S. in a converted school bus that he would hand out Matchbox cars, toys and baseball cards, all the things that little boys love, to children in order to lure them onto this bus.
Oh my God. Like, how does he exist? This is insane. Like, he needs to be boiled in acid or something. Like, how did nobody ever find this?
Because
now?
I think he traveled around the country. So they discovered that this all happened.
Yeah.
So because Ramos had told his story to federal prosecutor Stuart Grabois, who had been, or Goba maybe, who had been working the case since 1985, he wanted to prosecute Ramos, even if not for Etan Patz. Obviously, this guy is a monster.
Yeah.
So
get him out of the streets.
He did go on to succeed in Pennsylvania when in 1990, Ramos pleaded guilty to molesting an 8-year-old boy and was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison. Because investigators didn't have corroborated evidence of Ramos's story in relation to Etan's disappearance, that this happened in the park, Etan was playing handball, nobody could say, yes, I saw him in the park talking to a little boy. So because of this,
even though he said it himself,
he did say it himself, but people do say things.
Well, I mean, that's fine. Put him in jail.
Yeah,
for
but
it.
is he the guy?
Maybe, but I mean, still, he'd charge him and guilty and good to go there. I mean, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but
right.
At least put it on him.
The person who was responsible could be out there free.
The case would be closed.
Yes, the case is closed. We've got our guy, but maybe he's not our guy. Maybe he's just a lunatic, a disgusting, disturbed human being.
Oh, absolutely.
So because they couldn't give this corroborated evidence or find it, they couldn't charge him. They needed more evidence. So in 2000, Detective Phil Mahoney ordered a search of an apartment building where Ramos previously lived. Ramos allegedly told fellow inmates that this was the very location that he had disposed of Etan's body. Of course, his story is changing because at one point he said he put him on a train.
Sure.
Now he's saying he disposed of Etan's body at this place. He specifically said that he put his body in the furnace of the basement. He burned it. Nothing ever came of the search. Brian O'Dwyer, who was a prominent New York attorney who was representing Stan and Julie Patz, was also friends with Stuart Grabois. And then he approached him with this idea of taking a civil case against Ramos. He hoped that a wrongful death suit could bring a criminal case. However, before this could happen, Stan and Julie would have to officially give up hope and ask a court to declare their son dead. And that's a hard thing to ask a couple because it's officially saying this is done, he's never coming back. So on June 19th, 2001, 22 years after Etan disappeared, a judge officially declared that Etan Patz was deceased.
So Julie and Stan wouldn't do it?
No, they did. In order to
Okay.
pursue this case, they had to say that their son was gone.
I didn't know if the judge made them or whatever.
Well, they had to in order to pursue it.
Got it.
So they did. So in 2001, again, 22 years later, Etan was officially declared dead. So Stuart Patz said that he used to have fantasies, or I'm sorry, Stan, my apologies. Stan Patz said he used to have fantasies of Etan pulling up in a taxi cab and stepping out of it. But he said that these were fantasies and they were a long time ago. They were no longer entertained. O'Dwyer went to a Pennsylvania prison where Ramos was being held in order to interview him. And he, again, is saying that he picked up a boy named Jimmy on the day that Etan went missing. This time, Ramos did not say Etan's name, despite the fact that O'Dwyer was convinced that Ramos was the guy responsible in Etan's case. So again, he just keeps saying Jimmy. He is not saying Etan's name. So Ramos would never answer more questions or testify in court, and Stan and Julie won the civil case against him. In 2001, O'Dwyer told reporters, "Once and for all, we have a final declaration by a court of law that Jose Antonio Ramos caused the death of Etan Patz." Their ultimate objective was to get a criminal prosecution and O'Dwyer felt that there was enough against Ramos to prosecute him, but the Manhattan DA didn't agree with that. He said that he would not charge Jose Ramos because he did not believe that he could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. That, this guy's not just delusional and making up stories. He didn't think there was enough to bring him to court.
Yeah.
So as time continued to pass for Stan and Julie Patz, Etan remained frozen in time as a 6-year-old little boy. They remained convinced that Ramos was responsible for their son's death. Twice a year, Stan would send Ramos a poster where he would write on the back, "What did you do to my little boy?" It was a missing poster of Etan. So in 2010, the new Manhattan District Attorney, this is Cyrus Vance Jr., he agreed to take a fresh look at Etan's case, which included another look at Ramos as well as another suspect. So, they're moving on, and now we're moving into April of 2012, and authorities dug up the workshop of a handyman who had worked for the Patzes and had known Etan, and only the day before his disappearance had given him a dollar bill. This was the dollar bill that Etan carried with him that day. He was going to stop off at the store to get himself a soda. So this man is very well known to the family. And the reason why they're looking back at this case and back at this guy is that shortly after Etan disappeared, this handyman, this is Othniel Miller, he indicated that work had been done beneath the floor of his workshop. So he was not initially a suspect because he had an alibi for the morning that Etan disappeared. He was not in Soho that morning. It was unclear why the basement floor had never been dug up sooner, but this point in time, they're going back to it.
Can't change the past.
Exactly. So the old case files showed that the floor had looked uneven. It wasn't the same color. You could tell work had been done on this floor. So the dig, this is happening again in April of 2012. It went on for 5 days, and cadaver dogs were taken to the site and alerted investigators to the potential presence of cadaverine. This is a foul-smelling gas produced by decomposition. The city's chief medical examiner didn't read too much into the dog's reaction, though, because 33 years had passed at this point, and he felt it unlikely that the gas would still be detectable at this point. However, it was possible that the concrete could have preserved it. So Dr. Baden, the medical examiner, explained that there would be, probably bone remaining in the soil. Again, 33 years had passed. If Etan was buried under this concrete, there is possibility that things could still remain. Mm-hmm. Permanent teeth rather than baby teeth can last for decades, even longer. DNA could still be extracted from both bone and teeth. Hair could still be present. Investigators are also looking for signs of insect activity because insects could carry bodies' DNA, and they could extract it from the insects and compare it to Etan's parents. Etan was last seen wearing white sneakers and his airline hat. By this time, there would likely be no remnants of the clothing that he wore. I did look it up. It can, like cotton, different materials, they can decompose very, very quickly.
Yeah, but plastic and sneakers, you think that'd be around.
So that is the point, that plastic can last a long time. So it all depends on what the fabric he was wearing was made of. So the search did find bone fragments. However, they later proved that this belonged to deceased pets. So in actuality, the search came up with nothing related to Etan. So they're back at a dead end. So a few weeks later, however, a man from New Jersey, this is Jose Lopez, he watched the news coverage about this dig, and he contacted investigators with the fact that he believed that his brother-in-law, Pedro Hernandez, could be the man responsible for Etan's disappearance. This was the first time investigators had heard this name. When Etan went missing, Hernandez was an 18-year-old high school dropout who had recently moved to the city from Camden, New Jersey. He was working as a stock clerk at the bodega at West Broadway and Prince Street, right near Etan's bus stop. So within days of Etan's disappearance, Hernandez returned to New Jersey where he got a job in a dress factory. So the timing was very uncanny that he would come to the city and then just shortly thereafter relocate back to New Jersey. He then started telling people that he had killed an unnamed child in New York.
So this never alerted Jose before that he killed a child, and it was like one of the biggest pieces of news in history? He was just like, nah, I don't know.
I'll tell you more about that as to why.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's wondering the same thing I am.
So he told various people about this unnamed child that he killed in New York. This included an elder from his church group. This was during a religious retreat. He also confessed to an entire prayer group.
So freaking report him, man.
So during this prayer group, he fell to his knees in tears, as well as his former wife before they were even married. He confessed to her.
Oh, boo hoo hoo. You're going to jail and hopefully getting cremated yourself.
So the problem was there were inconsistencies in his confessions, and one of his childhood friends was told that he murdered a black child, while his ex-wife heard muchacho, which meant that it was a teenage boy. So the story is changing. But regardless, this is very alarming.
Yeah.
I don't care what age, color, whatever. He killed somebody.
Right.
So over the years, he had gotten divorced. He had been remarried, had children. He went on to work at random menial jobs. He had no criminal record. Detective notes from 1979 indicate that police were aware of the fact that Hernandez worked at the store. Again, we know Etan left the house with a dollar bill. He was going to go to buy a soda. It would only make sense that they would stop in at shops near the bus stop. So they were aware of Hernandez's presence back in 1979. It is not clear if he was ever questioned. There was no clarity as to why he had never been a suspect at the time. 2 weeks after they learned about Hernandez, he was questioned. Incidentally, it was May 23rd, 2012, so it's only like 2 days before the anniversary that Etan disappeared. So police traveled to New Jersey to his home to speak with him. And when he was told that they were there to investigate an old missing persons case from New York City, investigators noticed that all the color drained from his face. So at this point in time, Hernandez is 55 years old. He was interviewed by police, and after several hours of conversation, he began to sob and confess. He spoke to detectives for 6 hours without a lawyer or a recording happening during that time.
Ugh.
So he was shown a missing poster of Etan Patz. Detectives indicated that he easily got talking. He said that Etan was waiting for the school bus when he approached him and offered him a soda. He said that with the offer of the soda, he was able to lure Etan down to the stairs of the basement, where he then began to choke the little boy. At one point, he even imitated the sounds that he remembers the boy making as he was being strangled. He put his body in a plastic garbage bag and then placed this bag inside a box. He indicated that he believed that the child was still alive at this point. He said, "I know he was. I didn't actually kill him." He then put the box on his shoulder and carried the box a block away, where he discarded it amongst garbage. So he gave no reason for what may have possibly motivated him to do such a thing. He denied ever sexually assaulting Etan or any other child. When he was shown a picture of Etan, he confirmed that that had been the boy in the photo and specifically named him. He said, "I just couldn't let go. I felt like something just took over me." He indicated that he just happened to see Etan that morning on the street. He had never seen him before. Hernandez said that initially he tried to hide Etan's school bag in the store's basement. He threw it behind a freezer. Despite the fact that police would have searched the store, again, it's very close to Etan's bus stop. They knew he wanted to go to the store. They never recovered his bag. So
this is fishy.
It's very fishy.
Many reasons.
So fishy.
Yeah.
So Hernandez then walked detectives through the streets of Soho after his arrest, starting at the basement doors of the bodega and ending near a corridor behind the grocery store a little over a block away, where he may have left the box 33 years earlier. Police believe the box was picked up by garbage collectors. He then wrote a letter to Etan's parents and said, "I am really sorry that I was the one to hurt your child. I hope the kid might be in heaven." After Hernandez was arrested, he was believed to be a suicide risk, so he was taken to Bellevue Hospital. During this time in the hospital, Hernandez admitted that he does hear voices talking to him. He was diagnosed with a personality disorder by a defense psychiatrist. The trial began in January of 2015, 2.5 years after his arrest, and Hernandez's diagnosis of mental illness became a major part of the defense's trial. So Etan's remains have never been found. There is no scientific evidence from the crime scene to prove Hernandez's accounts. All we have are the words he is speaking. The prosecution's case was made up of statements to investigators and confessions to relatives, as well as the church group members. Hernandez's lawyers argued that he has limited intelligence as well as a personality disorder, which makes it very difficult for him to distinguish between reality and fantasy. Therefore, he may have confessed to something that he believed he had done. He may have truly believed he did this, but it doesn't mean that he actually did it. No parent that knew Etan, who had been at the bus stop that morning that Etan never showed up to the bus stop. They never saw him there. So nobody is able to corroborate to say, yeah, a man walked up and lured Etan away. So all we have is what this guy is saying.
Basically the same as Jose Ramos.
Yeah, exactly.
Just confessing. So we have two confessions.
Exactly. So his youngest daughter, Becky Hernandez, testified about her father's erratic behavior and claims of seeing demons, as well as angelic women in white, his watering a dead tree branch in order to make it come back to life and grow, and how she herself has witnessed her father just talking to himself. So clearly he is unwell. They refer to the initial hours of the interrogation when Hernandez denied any involvement in Etan's case before the video recording began, because we do know he spoke with investigators for like 6 hours. So during this time, he repeatedly asked if he could go home as he continued to deny his guilt. His lawyers feel that detectives made Hernandez believe that they were his friends and played on his religious beliefs. In one recording, a detective could be heard saying that he showed the strength of the Lord. So on the other hand, the prosecution experts interviewed Hernandez included that he isn't mentally ill and that his words could be believed. To back up their statements, the jury was shown home videos of Hernandez socializing as a healthy human being would. It was reinforced that when he filled out his driver's license renewal form, he had not reported any mental illness. However, a lot of people don't seek treatment for the things they are dealing with.
Right.
Maybe it's a financial constraint. Maybe it's a religious belief, whatever.
And also, what's the advantage of putting down that you have a mental illness? Nothing. It's probably negative. So it's like, why would I put that there and put myself on the target list?
Yeah, so to me, that doesn't mean much. District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. absolutely believed that Hernandez's confession had not been fabricated as a product of mental illness and was finally admitting to something that had tortured him throughout so many decades. Harvey Fishbein, Hernandez's court-appointed attorney, wanted the jury to wonder what happened during the 6 hours of Hernandez's confession before the videotape was turned on. When asked why the tape had not started earlier, it was indicated that there's really no legal requirement to do so, and that's simply why. Because of that, there was no way to know what was said before. Was he fed information? Was he berated? We will never know.
Manipulated some way.
Of course, detectives are giving assurance that Hernandez had only been handled fairly. He was not given any information about the case. He had not been influenced. It was fully Hernandez who had volunteered all of the information provided according to the detectives. Of course, they're going to say that.
Yeah, because there's nothing to prove otherwise.
Right. When his family was asked why they had not contacted authorities sooner when he spoke of doing something bad, this is what you asked earlier.
Yep.
They said they just truly didn't know if they could believe what he was saying.
And didn't want to believe it.
They didn't want to. So the jurors watched video recordings of the interviews that Hernandez gave around the time of his arrest, as well as the testimony of the detectives and the individuals he had confessed to decades earlier. The defense also argued that Jose Ramos, who is the convicted child molester, had the exact motive and opportunity. He could very well be the person that was responsible just as equally as Hernandez.
Yep.
So it was Hernandez's attorney's belief that if the DA's office tried Ramos, he could be convicted.
Right.
However, the prosecution believed that the evidence against Hernandez had been much stronger than that against Ramos. The prosecution indicated that they had one piece of critical information. When Hernandez showed police where he dumped Etan's body, he noticed there was a door there where he didn't remember one being before. So, of course, 33 years have passed. They ended up going back to the history of that building. He ended up being correct. It was discovered that the door had been added after 1979. So Hernandez's recollections were correct. That was something that was not publicly known, that door was not there. However, the defense interjected that Hernandez wasn't even sure of which building it was. He thought, maybe this is it. Then he looked and said, no, this is it. So, it's difficult.
Like the entire case is hanging on him knowing a door? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems
again,
pretty weak.
The passage of 3 decades.
Yeah.
So the trial lasted nearly 3 months, and after 18 days of deliberation, the judge declared a mistrial. This
Whoa.
was on May 8th, 2015, after the jury failed to reach a verdict and one member of the jury declined to vote to convict. So that member of the jury was Adam Serios, and he felt that a big issue was the mental health issue of Hernandez, that his confession maybe wasn't accurate. Maybe it was just something that he fabricated in his own mind. Also, the fact that they were unable to see the entirety of the interview was a big point of contention for him. 6 hours of conversation, we don't know what was said.
Yeah, and we can be broken down, as we've heard many, many times.
Many times.
Yeah, interviewers know that.
So Adam said that many of the jurors couldn't wrap their head around the fact that a person would possibly confess to something that they just hadn't done, whereas he believed that Hernandez's mental illness may have led him to falsely confess. They disagreed on the possibility that he may have been coerced. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Stan Patz was very disappointed with the mistrial, and he said, how many times does a man have to confess before someone believes him?
Yeah, that's got to be frustrating because it's like we've been presented with 2 people. Like one of them may have done it, but let's put one away so we can put this to rest. And if Stan and Julie both wanted to, I would almost be like, okay, let's convict them.
I know, and I can't imagine what this poor family must be dealing with. It's just so sad. So in 2017, a year and a half later, Pedro Hernandez went to trial a second time, and the evidence and issues from the first trial carried over to the second. Like the first, the second trial lasted 3 months. It ended in a 9-day deliberation. However, unlike the first trial, this time the jury did reach a verdict. And what do you think?
Guilty, just to put it to bed.
Yes. So Pedro Hernandez was convicted of murdering Etan Patz 37 years after the 6-year-old boy had left his home and vanished.
Like they're basically, just pulling for straws or whatever it is, whatever the saying is. They're like, let's just put somebody in jail. Both these guys are unwell. They shouldn't be out in the streets. So I'd almost like say Jose Ramos probably because he's like definitely
we know
the known...
this man's a monster.
Right, absolutely.
Whereas Pedro Hernandez, he never was convicted of anything. He had no history of sexually assaulting anybody.
Very well could be a monster, but the odds are it's Jose Ramos.
Right. So Hernandez was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Stan Patz spoke out and said that they had waited a long time and finally found some measure of justice for their wonderful little boy, Etan. And he said, I am truly relieved, and I tell you, it's about time. It really is about time. Etan's case has long haunted detectives involved, and they hope that there would have been a movie-like ending where Etan would eventually walk through the door. But sadly, it didn't work out that way. Despite the relief that the case was finally solved, there would never be complete closure, and detectives would have wanted nothing more than to give Stan and Julie Patz their son back. Etan Patz would be 51 years old today. His remains have never been found. And that is the sad and tragic disappearance of 6-year-old Etan Patz.
So quick question with Jose Ramos, how he said he put Etan, or Jimmy as he called him,
yes,
on a bus to his aunt's house.
Yes.
Did he know? Did Etan have an aunt where he said he was going?
That I never read that in any of my research.
Because that'd be something that is a very similar type of evidence where it's like, well, he knew where his aunt was, so he must have had him in his possession.
I'm guessing probably not,
right?
Because that would have been pretty damning.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like a lot of the case was troubling because he said so many different things.
Yeah, and at the same time, if he said, well, where'd you send him? Oh, he said, Mom, aunt's in Pennsylvania. And it's like, no, he doesn't have an aunt in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Then that would be equally as non-damning,
Right.
So either way, I mean, it's...
even though Hernandez, he gave people different statements. You know, he said a unnamed little boy. Then he said a black child. Then he said a muchacho, which is a teenager. So what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't feel great about either one of them.
I know. I don't either.
I mean, Jose Ramos is a scumbag.
Oh, well,
Hopefully
we know that man is a legitimate monster. The fact that he converted a school bus into a home so that he could literally just travel around the country and abduct little boys.
Joyrides and diddle little boys.
And it's always hard when somebody's moving because nobody gets to know them and then they're not tied to that space.
Yeah. Is he dead?
I don't know if he's still alive or dead, but regardless, he's a horrible human being. And, all I want is for Stan and Julie to have peace because nobody should have to live with what they've had to live through. And it's truly heart-wrenching that this adorable little child, all he wanted was a little independence and freedom. He was so excited. And I can only imagine him putting his toys in his bag that morning and bounding out the door thinking like, look at me, I'm a big kid.
Yeah, I'm a big shot.
Yeah, and it's just so sad that whether it's Ramos, whether it's Hernandez, somebody did something terrible to Etan.
Yep.
And it's just terrible. And the whole stranger danger thing, again, it was grossly inflated. The statistics are not there to make us as scared as we are, but I am just as scared as everybody else.
Hey, if it's one, then
1% is 1%.
I'm not 1%. I mean, even one kid a year is too much.
It's about 100, but that doesn't matter. You don't want your kid to be one of those.
Yeah.
So just
thank you for telling us the sad story, poor Etan, and hopefully, it can help us parents, make better decisions moving forward. Not that his parents had anything to do with it.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But really what it comes down to is we have to look at the people we know around us more so. They're the greatest risk to our children, more so than a stranger.
Absolutely.
And it's just scary. It's scary to be out there, whether you're an adult or a child or a parent or whatever. It's just scary.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And if you like what we do and you're curious about some of these bonus episodes, you can become a free member of the Apple subscriptions. I think they give you like a 3 to 5 day trial. So if you have an Apple phone, go check it out and click free. And, I think you have to cancel within 3 or 5 days. And
the way that I see it is if you wanted to try it out and you knew like you had a house project going on or you're going to be cleaning or something like that, just binge.
Hey, that's a great idea.
Truly, because that's when I pop my earbuds in and listen to podcasts is when I'm cleaning or doing laundry or whatever.
And if I'm going to be honest, I just hope you forget to cancel so that you stay.
I wouldn't be upset.
Because we'd love to have you as a member of the Crime and Coffee Couple Club.
Stick around. It's a cozy place.
Yeah.
I did want to mention if you become a patron, we are recording this episode early. So if we happen to miss your name, we will announce you next week. So thank you guys so much. You're amazing.
Absolutely. So I want to say welcome to the Crime and Coffee Couple Club to Allison and Jennifer. Ooh, interesting.
That's my name.
Well,
Alice and Jennifer.
Yeah, it sure is. Middle name and everything.
How funny.
Yeah. Well, now
you didn't think about that before?
I just saw it now. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Pretty interesting.
Right before my birthday.
Yeah, very cool. So welcome everybody and all you Apple subscribers that we don't know your names. And coming around the Coffee Couple Club coffee table. And I don't know. It's
a lot of coffee.
I don't know.
We'll have a cappuccino around the Crime and Coffee Couple table.
Yes.
And if you're celebrating Memorial Day, we want you to be safe, have a barbecue.
In the United States.
In the United States, yes. Thank you for that clarification. We're really doing good, Mike. But be safe. Enjoy yourself. If you're having that extra day off of work, enjoy the heck out of it. You deserve it. And we will be back again. And until next time, bye.